in the chat.
Yes, and we are live, Stevie. Stevie, look, you're coming in fresh as always. I always like to throw a question at you before we get into to everything we're going to discuss today. But it's playoff time, so I'm staying on topic. What are your thoughts on the Bills being on the road for the first time in the wild card in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it can be worrisome considering the Bills haven't got a victory on the road, but every year is a different team. And considering the team that we have now and how they take advantage of situations, I'm not worried at all. I think the Bills are prepared and they're battle tested, and I think they'll go out to Jacksonville and get a dub.
I'm a little nervous. I don't love being on the road. It's so different than in past years because in past years it's been a home game against like the 7 seed, and not disrespecting any of those teams, but this one just feels a little bit different, but I'm always going to be confident. But we're going to break everything down here now. Offensively, defensively, special teams, the X's and O's in this matchup. Everything to break down. Bills versus Jaguars, wild card weekend. But first, Shane, hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Bills Banter with Stevie Johnson and Michael F. Florio.
Fitzpatrick fires. Oh, caught! Steve Johnson! Touchdown, Buffalo! Why so serious?
The sickest Buffalo Bills podcast.
Allen will run it himself. He pumps. Got some daylight. Hurdles to the end zone.
It's gonna be sick.
Let's get it, man.
Let's just
wild card week.
I don't know. I guess it's different for you guys when you do this, but would you be more nervous as a player or as a fan heading into a playoff game?
I would say as a fan, because you can't control anything. You just got to go out there and cheer your team on. Whatever happens in their world is what's happening in their world that you can't control. So it's more nerve-wracking as a fan, especially when you outspoken like myself, considering this should be an easy dub for the Buffalo Bills. And I can't control anything though. But that's why it's so much fun and entertaining to watch these games though, Guru.
Yeah, I was thinking that you were gonna go that way as well, because when you're out there on the field, right? Like you have control over that. You feel like if I do my thing, we should win, right? Like and you have that confidence. But You're not out there this weekend. You can't really control that.
Exactly. So you feel me? That's good you bring that up, because it's a whole different mindset when you're on the field. The players aren't really looking at the tweets and the message boards and things like that. They'll take a peek at it for sure. They'll take a peek at it. But at the end of the day, that don't determine how hard they're going. They're already thinking they're the best at what they do for that week, and if I don't dominate my opponent, then I must be getting dominated, and we don't want that on the national stage. So
yeah,
it's a whole different mindset.
What kind of fan are you during the playoffs? Are you sitting there calm, cool, and collective, like with confidence, or are you like me because I pace in front of the TV? I legitimately have a stress ball that I'll be like bouncing or throwing up or whatever. Like after a Bills playoff game, I feel like I just was out there on the field.
Man, it's a mix. I mean, the Mafia, y'all seen us. Y'all seen how I am. I'm chill. We watching it. We locked in. Play happen. We all everywhere. We around the bar. We outside the bar. That y'all seen how we get down. Y'all will see this upcoming Sunday in Las Vegas. It's a mix of everything. And that's exactly how the game is. It's a mix of everything, because it's not always on 10 throughout the game. So, yeah, I'm the type that I don't mind who's around either. I can have the opposing team in the building. That makes it all fun. I always love that part of the game with the opposing team around talking however they can.
For playoff games, I like to be by myself. Like I'll be home with my wife and that's it. Like I then I could yell, I could jump around and celebrate, I could do whatever I want, but I don't like watching with other people for big games because I want to be locked in, like every single play. I'm out there like, trying to figure out the formation. It has no impact on the game. but it's just how. And you know who else I think probably watches like I do? Drew Buckets. So to break down this game with us, Stevie, let's bring in the one and only Mr. Buckets.
Buckets, what up though, man? How you doing?
Good evening, fellas. How y'all doing?
Feeling good. So, we going into wild card weekend. We want to hear the thoughts from the community. What you got on the list?
Everything. I'm gonna hold up for a second though. You said it's not always on 10 for playoffs, brother.
Dude, you're
I
like
started
me,
at 57. I worked my way down to like a 30 by halftime. But if we get the ball after halftime, I'm right back up to like in the mid 80s. Like 10 is like 10's like preseason levels.
Are you a
I have a whole
like
yeah, I got a whole refrigerator full of not sponsored Labatt Blue Lights that can help bring me down those levels, brother. Like if you're getting up to a 10 after a big play, yeah, I'm leaving you in the dust.
So that's why it'll be fun to have Buckets around because I love to have that type of energy around because my 10 is my 10 and his is on a whole nother level. I see. So I'm gonna need another Jaguar in the building. Shout out to my daughter's softball team. We got a former alumni of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sir George, linebacker, and so it's gonna be a fun weekend. We got a few legacy kids on the team, so this makes it even fun.
Is there friendly like bets or rivalries or anything going this weekend? Some trash talk, like.
There will be trash talk. I know it. There will. He kind of got that passive aggressiveness. You know what I mean? He been kind of laying low since the season's been started. So we'll see what happens. I know he's been keeping an eye on it because he texted me out of the blue right when we got seeded. So I'm like, okay, so he's been keeping up with it. So we'll see what's up.
I love it. I don't outside of this sounds like a flex. Outside of working with MJD, I don't know any Jaguars fan or former player or anything like that, so I don't really have anyone to jaw with. But
MJD is the one. Yeah, MJD is the one.
He picked the Jags too. I got to text him and be like, "What do you? Come on."
Wait, who did he pick?
He picked the Jags. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he got to. He got to pick the Jags. Got to.
Who, in the community speaking, outside of Bills Mafia, who hasn't picked the Jags? We are getting dogged right now.
They are. Look, so the Bills are. The spread has gone down to just one now, but they're still favorites. But the Jags are a very popular pick right now.
Yeah, they are. They are, and I mean, you give credit to where credit's due because they did go on a win streak. To hold on to 8 straight games is impressive, But at the same time, I don't see them as the threat that they've shown to be. Trevor Lawrence, is he doing well? Yeah, I mean, he's a former number 1 overall, right? Like we would hope he would be good. Like Caleb Williams is doing well too, but I don't see him in situations because there'll be minimal situations, and he doesn't have every piece, every weapon that he had in the beginning of the season to take up all of those first downs. I've seen a lot of deep pass to Travis Hunter. I seen him fall on the ground twice, get up and then run in. Like I don't see that happening against the Buffalo Bills because they present a different type of pressure. And not to mention, there was passes where he threw interceptions. Even let's talk about the Chiefs game. Chiefs not even in the playoffs, so are they even a threat? But there was a pass where he threw an interception and then they called it back because it was a quote unquote holding. I don't know if the Bills will be holding because we have the number 1 pass defense, so that might be a turnover. So I don't see them as the threat that they are. They just been handling business against teams that they're supposed to.
So let's start with the Bills defense attacking Trevor Lawrence and the off. And speaking of holding, I did read a ref breakdown that this officiating crew calls offensive line holding at the lowest rate amongst all the crews, which is huge for the Bills because they had the most O-line holding. They also don't call a lot of secondary holding. So that is good for a Bills. I think both are an advantage.
That's good for both. Yeah, I think that's good for both. Yeah, because that'll let the Jaguars be who they are. Because you got to acknowledge they are a tough defense and they're athletic. Yeah. They're I wouldn't say they're all the way aggressive, but they play their roles right and then they swarm. So you got to give credit where it's due. So if they're not calling that hold, they're gonna be able to do what they need to, and that's going to help the Buffalo Bills on our side, because as you seen when we played against the Eagles, they was rough, and with them being rough, they was running circles around our boys or running right through them. It was confusing them. They didn't want to hold because they might get caught. So now it's like you can really compete with each other. So that's why this is gonna be a fun week. The best defense against the best rushing offense.
Yep.
So, from the Bills' defensive side of things, I obviously we'll talk about the run game there for Jacksonville as well. But Trevor Lawrence, and so he has at his disposal Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, Brian Thomas Jr., Brenton Strange, and then the Bills right now only have 2 cornerbacks. They're calling up Dane Jackson to the main roster to be their third. It sounds like they're going to get some reinforcements in the secondary with like Jordan Poyer and stuff, though. Drew, I'll start with you. How do you feel about the Bills secondary going up against a group of pass catchers from Jacksonville that they might not have? Like Brian Thomas Jr. disappointed this year. They might not have a star, but they have a lot of good, reliable options there for sure.
Dang, I don't think he disappointed. My bad, Buckets.
You're good.
He's disappointed from a fantasy football standpoint. I'll say that.
Yeah, if you look at how they run their offense, though, it's like it's only so many passes that you can get that's explosive. When you running their offense is similar to the Bills' offense to me.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah,
very similar.
It's very controlled by the coach. Trevor Lawrence not out there audibling and doing all the matches. It's similar to the Bills. And when you put it like that, now you got to match athletes, playmaker versus playmaker. And, have they played against the fire of a James Cook? We'll see. Along with a Josh Allen. It was close to it with a Mahomes in Hunt. However, that offense is sideline to sideline when ours is more linear, is going downhill. So, it's kind of different to me. You can talk about their offensive guys in adding Jacoby Myers, a solid player, but I don't think they're playmakers against our defensive pass protecting playmakers in our DB room. I'm going to choose our guys over and over, considering the pressure that we will get on our defensive line. So,
right.
Buggers, you can go on with the community again.
No, you set me up perfect. I was going to say the thing that I think about most is it starts with our defensive line. And I know we're talking about our secondary, but it starts with our defensive line, because our defensive line against their O-line is a huge mismatch in this game. They are notoriously ranked towards the bottom of the league for the last couple of years in O-line play. I think, depending on where you look for your stats and rankings, they're about 24th in the league this year, which is a big vulnerability. And if you watch, a lot of the times, as you said earlier, Stevie, Trevor Lawrence is scrambling for his life. He's falling down. He's always just looking like where to go, and he has outlet passes to Strange and, Parker Washington and things like that. So I think if our defensive line can put an immense amount of pressure, especially early on their O-line, knowing that the Jaguars pass about 55% of the time, that is going to open up our secondary to be free and play much more aggressive man-to-man or the zone, whatever they want to play, to lock down those speedy defenders. Or speedy wide receivers, sorry. I think that if we get Hamlin back, which he's limited in practice right now, that's going to help. We'll see what Dane Jackson does, because, I know there's reports that, he's been working hard to get back into elite level. So we'll see how that goes. I hope it's not a Kaiir Elam situation like it was last year, like we mentioned on Monday. But I think that our secondary will go the way of our defensive line, and I think our defensive line is going to feast. We're going to put Trevor Lawrence on the run.
We can't be comfortable. We can't let this 2 weeks off be One of those things where our DBs come out there, or our coaching staff of the DBs say, all right, we're going to play off and get back into our groove. No. Let's get back to playing up close within that 5-yard range, mixing it up and catching, you know what I'm saying? And then putting that pressure on the quarterback to make those throws. Because when I look back at the film, the Jaguars aren't necessarily creating space from their athletes. You know, the passes are the big plays that they've made. It's been like tight catches, great passes by Trevor Lawrence. But you don't see a player literally making that space. So with that being said, if you're playing off and playing that catch technique, you're going to get dotted up, you know, and that'll be the difference that I would see first when this game start. And next would be, I would say the special teams.
To that end,
let
me put a dot on his thing real quick. The defense on third down specifically is going to be vital. Stevie mentioned it. We play soft coverage, and we've notoriously played soft coverage on third down. We've given them such a huge cushion. They're only converting third downs at a 39.1% clip. So if we can get them off the field on third down, A, we're going to dominate time of possession. B, we're going to dominate the chances of them even getting to the red zone. And when they do, they're only their red zone percentage is only like in the mid 60s. So we have advantages. So especially early on in drives when they're far away from their end zone, we've got to get off the field on third down.
Yeah. Hey, Guru, check this out. So they talk a lot about the number one rushing, like in the Buffalo Bills, going up against the number one rushing defense, but they're not talking about how we have the number one pass defense going up against a team that's known first about passing. You know what I mean? So how are they going to put up all their points against us? It should be the same talk, right?
Yeah, no, and that gets, because I think a lot of people look at the Bills defense and they're like, yes, one, they say they don't have a shutdown corner because Christian Benford is the most disrespected DB maybe in the NFL. But I think a lot of people look at it like, well, that defense can't stop the run and everyone runs all over them, which is true. But on the same thing for the Jaguars side of things, teams are passing against them at the highest rate in football. That also tends to help you be the best. Not that they're not good against the run, but it helps make you better when teams are just throwing against you more. So I think these defenses this is very much so, in my opinion, something like which one of these defensive units proves that they are who the stats say they are. Like if the Jags shut down the Bills running game, I think they win. If the Bills shut down the Jags passing game, I think they win. And the thing about Trevor Lawrence here, in his career, I know he's a different player this year with Liam Cohen there, but in his career, he's 1-3 against the number one pass defense in his career. 0-3 on the road, 1-0 at home. That only home victory game against the Buffalo Bills in 2021. So don't love that. I think that was that might have been the weird 9-6 game. Or was that might have been the game in London? It was that's the other thing too, though. When people say the Bills have lost the last two games, I know the one where they lost 9-6 and Josh Hines Allen went off. That was a weird one. The other one was a game in London where the Bills were the first team in history to play a team that played in London the week before.
Back to back.
Yeah, I think that a lot, just like what we were saying with the Allen on the road stuff, once you dive into the context of a lot of these stats, it's not really what it appears to be on its face. But while we're talking about this Bills defense, and I do want to see Christian Benford on Jacoby Myers a lot. The Bills have been the number one team against tight ends, so they should be able to limit Strange. I think Trey White, you're going to probably put him on BTJ, I'd imagine, and then you get Teron Johnson on Parker Washington. But to me, I know you guys said it comes down to the D-line and being able to get them off the field on third and long, be able to get them in situations that are favorable for the Bills defense. That starts against the run. And to help us break down how the Bills could stop this Jaguars rushing attack, we're going to bring on the one and only Don Muki to join us here.
Don Mook, what up, though?
New local school board director over there out in Buffalo.
Yes.
What's good? What's good, fellas? What's going on? Happy New Year and all that good stuff.
Same to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year's to you, Don Mook. Hey, before we jump into this Bills talk, can you walk us through the process of what happened over this weekend?
Well, on Monday, I became officially sworn in as a school board member of Central District. So I will be in charge of 16 schools.
Wow.
Respect.
And you cover the Bills, and you make time for us here. I don't know how you do it all.
And you coach legends.
Yeah.
I got a clone.
Mookie's definitely one of those people who don't sleep, right? Like he sleeps like 2 hours a night, and that's it. With everything but Mookie, we're talking right now about the Bills' defensive side of things. We were talking about how they stopped the passing attack, but I think the biggest concern is how they could stop the Jags' rushing attack. What do you think about that?
Well, they got to keep they got to stay consistent with the players. That's been the reason on why the Bills have been able to, slow down the run. I want to say that the Bills stopped the run, just slow down the run. I kind of think that it's kind of like an unfair analogy now. I mean, yeah, we know that in the beginning of the season, first half of the season, they kind of been brutal with letting guys just have career days or whatever the case may be against them. But man, this hasn't really been that way, over the past 6-7 games, as far as the run game is being, a fixture. And you got to give Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbitt a ton of credit on that. I think things kind of change when they come out the bye week. For some strange reason, Coach McDermott is undefeated in his entire career when coming off the bye week. And the run game has been a difference. At first, we was all talking about how horrible the secondary was with is Bishop ready and is Rapp the answer back there while trying to place Poyer and Micah Hyde. But again, since the bye week, Cole Bishop has been making plays. They do possess the number one pass defense in the NFL right now as we speak. But that didn't been in favor. I credit the new guys up front. You look at what Dwayne Walker has been able to do in his rookie season. If this guy is in first team, rookie, our first team rookie defensive team, I don't know who is. The addition of Fedarian Mathis, Larry O coming, off the suspension list. I think that kind of bulked up, these past couple of games. Look, they was able to contain Saquon Barkley, right? So if they can do those same type of recipes against Travis Etienne, I think they'll bowl pretty well. I do like the new front. We're not going to have Ed Oliver, but Mathis, Walker, Larry O, then you throw TJ Sanders in that mix. I think you got a solid interior that can slow down the run against Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
And I do want to say one thing, though. They got to worry about Bashaw Tootin, man. I know he hasn't, like, the stats are Etienne is the guy there, but Tootin is their explosive runner. Mm-hmm. And those home run hitting abilities is what always gives this Bills, because they could stop the run 4 to 5 times, but that fifth one can't go for, a huge chunk play. I want to go around the horn here, though, real quick. Give me a player or two that, if this player has a great game for the Bills defense, you think the Bills come out victorious. We'll start with Drew.
Cole Bishop. I think if Cole Bishop has a really good game, plays his game solid, and is in the positions where he needs to be, I think not only will he help stop runs, but he can do a lot of things in the backfield that he can be a ball hawk. So I think he can be an X factor in this game.
Mookie?
What was the question again?
If there's a Bills player on defense that has like a really good game, the Bills will win.
Greg Rousseau.
Yep.
It's time for
well.
Greg Rousseau to, all right, you did it in Cleveland. We need to see it again. We need to see consistency, and he gives us these flashes of greatness, these flashes of a dominant pass rusher, and then it just goes away. So if Greg Rousseau can emulate anywhere in between of what he was able to put together between Cleveland and Philadelphia, then yeah, the Bills have a great chance on winning against Jacksonville.
All right, for me, I know you guys are gonna go those routes, so I'm gonna go with somebody probably not thinking, and that's Dorian Williams, to make those plays where you see ETN get to the side and he might have a big one, and then you see somebody come out of nowhere and come make a play, and I'm hoping it's gonna be Dorian Williams showing off his athleticism to go side to side and shut down an athletic quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, who might break the pocket and try to get loose. But we have that one linebacker that's a hybrid that can make that play, and hopefully we get that stop from Rousseau and from Bishop. Maybe he's the one that can come downhill, but I think they may have their hands full in the backfield with BTJ, Parker Washington, and then having Jacoby Myers also out there with Strange. It's gonna be work for our DBs. That's gonna be an interesting watch. But yeah, it starts up front, and hopefully Rousseau can be the X factor. But if not, I'm going with Dorian Williams to step in and play big.
He's fully healthy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's active. He's active. It's just about whether he'll be in there or not.
Right.
I was gonna go with Groot as well. Then to give a different name, Shaq Thompson comes to mind because he's their best run stopping linebacker. But I think it's gonna be come down to the wire kind of game, and I think Joey Bosa needs to be the closer, right? Like that's what he was brought here to do. Get that big sack, get that big tip deflection, something like that. So if he could have that big signature moment late, I think the Bills are in a good position. All right. On the offensive side of things, though, we spoke a lot about the Bills' defense, but Stevie, you hit the nail on the head with this, what it is for the Bills' offense, right? It's the number one rush defense and the NFL rushing leader going up against the number one rushing defense. Now, the Bills have faced tough run defenses this year. They ran on the Patriots well. They ran on the Texans well. They ran on pretty much most outside of like the Falcons game. I feel like they ran pretty well most games. But against tough defenses, they have come through. Do you think this is – we'll start with you, Stevie. Do you think this is a big rushing game for the Bills, like an average rushing game, or do you think the Jags defense gets the better of them?
I think it's going to look like an average game because the Bills will still do what they've been able to do against, like you said, all types of defenses. Whether that's James Cook getting 75. If he's getting 75, Josh should be getting around 30 or 40. And how will those yards look out of a big play action where they're wide open, great momentum? So those plays would be different with the Buffalo Bills as opposed to with other teams that's got those quarterbacks with the 60-60 running back duel. So I don't see it as a problem. The Buffalo Bills will have an average game, but they'll be just a step ahead than the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I would be if they hold James Cook to 75 rushing yards. I would be a little nervous, but I see like that is a solid performance against this defense. Mookie, how do you think this rushing attack shapes out against that Jags D line?
I mean, the Bills has the number one rushing leader in NFL. They have the number one rushing quarterback in the NFL. I don't care that the Jacksonville Jaguars is the number one run defense in the NFL. I mean, something obviously is going to give, but when you really look at it in its totality, nobody really has been able to stop this Bills run game. It's been the Bills that's been really stopping their run game when you really look at it. You look at probably 3 of the 4 games that the Bills lost. We all agree probably James Cook should have got the ball a little bit more in those games. Yeah. After showing you flashes, when you look at that Houston game, he just pops it for 44 yards like it's nothing, and then you don't see that stuff no more. Even against the Falcons, you don't see that anymore. So it's like, the Bills kind of like being their own way in that regard. I don't really think that. I mean, and then the narrative of it all is just like, oh, they got the number one run defense. That's why the Bills are going to lose. And then the Bills receivers is not that good. So if they can stop the Bills run game and force them to throw, then, that's why Jacksonville is going to win. That's what everybody's saying. That's what everybody is saying because of an unfair, stat on how the Bills was giving them to run early in the season. So, that stat don't never go away, because too much damage was done earlier. But I don't think that. I think James Cook gets 100 yards in this game. It might be right over that. And Josh Allen is going to have over 50 yards rushing. Josh Allen is going to have some plays with his feet, and as long as they're not running bubble screens, you're going to get that opportunity. But Josh Allen definitely needs 3 to 4 designed run plays that could play big dividends in this offense. Take the pressure off of James Cook, and stymie, keep him off balance with balance.
Yeah, and to add to that, you got to think about the tight ends. Like we get the tight ends heavily involved. So with that being said, Ray Davis plays a big part of this game. If he can continue doing what he's doing on special teams, that's not a whole field for the Bills to have an entire playbook. That's only about 50 yards, 40-something yards for James Cook, Josh Allen, and those tight ends to make plays. You don't really need outside plays, like you said, screen plays that's designed to go backwards. You don't need, unless your screenplay is going uphill like how Welker's and Patriots usually are, and how ours was early. Then cool, but nothing behind the line of scrimmage. That'll be for the Jaguars to make those sideline to sideline trickery type of plays, because they're not as dominant as the Buffalo Bills offense is the way I see it.
I won't lie. Last week against the Jets, they threw the ball like 3 or 4 times to Kincaid, and I was just like, just shut him down. Like, if he goes down, this offense looks like, don't have him out there. So I'm happy he is healthy. I do think he will make a big impact. Drew, I want to ask you this though, because all the talking points are about the run defense, right? But the Jags have been extremely tough on slot receivers this year. In fact, they've allowed the lowest passer rating on targets to slot receivers, which just happens to be where the Bills' best receiver, Khalil Shakir, does a lot of his damage. So, I don't know, man. Like, the usage for Shakir, I haven't liked it at all year. It's been a lot of screens, not a lot of downfield stuff, not a lot of moving him around. Do you think our offense
our offense ain't based around the wide receivers? So that's not an issue for us,
I was just gonna say that. Shakir will get his. I'm sure he'll find a way to be slippery. He always tries to fall forward, just like Ray Davis. Whenever he's moving, he tries to fall forward. I don't know. If they lock him up, okay, we've got Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Jackson Hawes, Latu. I mean, we got 4 different massive tight ends that they are middle of the road against tight ends, and they're giving up a lot of touchdowns to and a lot of yards to. So,
man, we got great situational players.
I think Kincaid might lead them in receiving yards, but I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I've been saying this on a lot of shows this week. I think Brandon Cooks is the X factor in this game for the Bills offense, because the Jags' weakness on defense against receivers is out wide, and they have really struggled all year long on the deep ball. So Brandon
213 plus yards a game given up to wide receivers on average.
And I know they're top of the league, like towards the top 5 or 7 in yards to out wide and on deep passes to wide receivers.
Yep.
So I think Brandon Cooks, who's coming off of his best game as a Bill and then was shut down in week 18, I think he is going to have to make his presence felt. I think he catches a long one or two. And if that happens, if you get the downfield ability cooking, it makes it a lot tougher to be able to load up front against the run. So I'm hoping that they come out the gate pretty aggressive early on, because then I think the Jags defense have to pick and choose. Do we try to just keep daring them to throw deep, or do we try to stop the run, like sell out and try to stop the run?
Well, here's the thing too. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Stevie. Go ahead.
I hope the Bills defense, our offense, don't get too accustomed to trying to make that deep ball, happen, because if the Jaguars defense, they're a bend but don't break type of defense also, so they'll play back, and they got athletes that can catch and run with you. So if you think you go sit back there like when we played against the Houston Texans and try to pick apart this defense, no, they still have guys that can attack downhill on that line. So we can't really, fall victim to trying to make that big play. I think we got to come out and impose our will with our offensive line, learning from what they felt against the Philadelphia Eagles and against the Houston Texans, with thoughts of what happened when whoever was there when we played in Jacksonville, and still having the memory of the past year when we dominated Jacksonville, So we got to impose our will and utilize our dogs because they haven't played against James Cook before, you know?
Yeah. Do you guys think this comes down to the turnover battle? Because I know, Stevie, that's something that you've highlighted a lot when it comes to playoff games, but the Jags are second in the NFL in takeaways this year. They're below average in giveaways, so they've won a lot of games by winning the turnover battle. And let's be honest, the Bills have lost a lot of games this year by having just some ridiculously sloppy turnovers.
You know what? I mean, look, Shane, let's get to that why so serious. Shane, hit it.
Why so serious?
All right, yeah, for this segment, I was gonna say, like, what's the point of everybody, the Jaguars this, and they go stop us, and a lot of the pro analysts is saying Jaguars over Bills, but it's obvious from the buildup of this past 30 minutes that we're not seeing that same dog in the Jaguars that everybody else is. But with the question that you just brought up, though, Guru, what do I think is going to be the difference and the X factor in this game? If we want to get serious about it, it's going to be special teams. As much as I love defense and understand that a team goes far as the defense can shut down a great offense, but with this game, I feel like it's going to come down to special teams on both sides. The Jaguars do have a talented player in Parker Washington who can flip the script and change the field at the snap of a finger, on punts. He's had, I think, consecutive punt returns. And then you look at Ray Davis, who's a bolder, dynamic athlete from the kickoff return perspective. And that's helping our offense more, So it's going to come down to that part of the game for me, and hopefully the playmakers on offense and defense do what they do. But I think the momentum is going to come from special teams, not turnovers.
Drew, you had some special team stuff too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wasn't going to say it was Cam Little versus I was gonna say it's Cam Little versus Ray Davis, not Parker Washington versus Ray Davis, because I mean the dude's a robot. I mean, he kicks it from, especially with the changing of the kicking balls this year, he's hitting them from 68 in games, and I've seen in warmups he's hitting it from, I think there was a clip going around where he hit it in warmups from 74. Wow. The weather is supposed to be 68 and a light wind and sunny with maybe some clouds. It's gonna be perfect for football, especially in January. So I mean, that could come down to it, but Ray Davis is the X factor, like you were saying, on special teams. This dude can go forever, and if he finds a seam, he's gone. And he's consistently getting the ball for us to start at the 40. So right. I mean, he shortens the field just insanely, which leads more credit to James Cook having the rushing record, because when you're starting damn near midfield and you're still putting up 1,600 yards, that's insane. You
feel me? That's amazing, right?
That's awesome.
Amazing. You got a guy that's leading the league in kickoff returns, but then you get a running back with a quarterback like Josh Allen, and he's leading the league. So, like, they're not giving enough credit to our rushing attack, to be honest. They talk about their defense. Yeah, it does look good, but take that into consideration. That's amazing what James Cook was able to do, especially coming off of a somewhat holdout, right? He earned every penny. He should hold out again.
I mean, when you look at it, field position always is key, especially in the playoffs, right? So field position is always super key on how you want to start a football game. If the Bills can get great field position by great returns for Ray Davis on special teams, you give Josh Allen a short field. And then again, we already know everybody want to keep talking about Jacksonville and this great defense they is because they can stop the run. If the Bills are allowed short fields, they are in the red zone very quickly. And I do believe that Jacksonville is probably one of the worst red zone defenses in the league, with 60% of the team scoring in the red zone. So,
right. They can't steal.
Right. Let's talk about that. And, on the flip side of that, they always, like you said, Stevie, the run game. The Bills got the number one run game, but everybody just discrediting the Bills' number one run game for the Jacksonville's number one run defense. So on the flip side, if Josh Allen, we got Josh Allen, by the way. So if Josh Allen is able to complete some passes downfield, what are we talking about?
Right.
That's 100% it.
It's the shiny new toy, right? Like the Bills have been here year in and year out. The Jags are coming in hot. Everyone wants to see the new thing advance and out with the old. But I also think we spoke on Monday, right? We went through the quarterbacks that the Jags have faced in this 8-game winning streak. It was Justin Herbert, Jacoby Brissett, Cam Ward. Daniel Jones got hurt, and it was Riley Leonard, Brady Cook, Bo Nix, Phillip Rivers, and then Cam Ward got hurt on the first drive, and it was Brandon Allen. The reason I think it's relevant for this as well is because there's a bunch of teams there that were not at competitive points of their season. It's easy it's a natural born advantage, I would say. If you're facing Brady Cook, you're like, if we stop Breece Hall, we stop him, right? Plus, when you're going up numerous scores on some of these bad teams, they just naturally can't run as much. So I think that has inflated the stats a little bit.
A lot of it, brother. A lot of it.
I was gonna say
a lot of it.
Yo,
I'm trying to be
tripping?
respectful.
Am I tripping? Because I'm not seeing it the way the world's seeing it.
In the last 5 games, let me put it to you this way, okay? In the last 5 games, this right here is why the narrative has flipped to the Jags. They've played going backwards: Titans, Colts, Broncos, Jets, Colts. Okay, so they beat Bo Nix by 14. They had a turnover in that game. The Broncos did. So that's a tough team. They won the AFC West. That's great. But the other teams didn't even make the playoffs. Daniel Jones got hurt. Their season kind of crumbled. Jonathan Taylor didn't do anything after that point. But in their last 5 games, they scored 195 points and they gave up 58. Okay. But again, it's the backups. It's backups after backups after backups who haven't gotten the reps. That's why the turnover numbers are inflated. That's why the offensive passing yards are inflated. That's why their rush defense numbers are inflated, because when you are only going up against backups and you have no one who can necessarily run the ball on a consistent basis, especially with a 4-headed backfield like we have, starting with JA-17, going to James Cook, Ray Davis, and then Ty Johnson, they haven't seen that before, at least not in the last 8 games in their win streak. The narrative has flipped because of the recency bias, and that's it, in my opinion. Yeah. And if I held up for that on Sunday, that's me. But 195 to 58 is crazy.
Can I add on to that? Do you guys remember literally a year ago, right? Wild card weekend. Who was on the other side? The reigning defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, a top 3 rated Denver Broncos defense that I would argue is still ahead of this Jaguars defense, right? I know the Bills were at home and not on the road, and that changes things. But you know what the Bills did against that Broncos defense? They scored 31 unanswered points. Josh Allen threw for 2 touchdowns and 135 passer rating. James Cook ran for $120 and a touchdown. Josh ran for almost 50. They had their way with what many people said was the best defense in the NFL.
You feel me? I'm with you on that, Guru. That's why I said it's going to look like an average day, because that game was like a coming out party for the Broncos. Just like this year, it's the coming out party for the Jacksonville Jaguars to have. Now they figured out how to win. Last year they showed glimpses. This year they're winning games. So they're in the same. The Broncos right now are the AFC West champions. They're the same team as the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, they're not as good as everybody's saying that they are. And I know they may say, oh, because you're a Buffalo Bills fan.
I today said I think the Broncos are getting overrated, and someone looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, they still got this year. Next year, we'll see what Bo Nix can do. But him and Trevor Lawrence is battling because they're really competing against each other. But Josh Allen is leading his team on a whole nother level than what Lawrence and Bo Nix are doing. You know, they're trying to get to Allen's level. So they won't. So what I'm saying is, it's not going to be a competitive back and forth game where you're going to get that many opportunities. Josh is going to minimize the opportunities for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the defense on the Buffalo Bills side, all they have to do is continue doing what they've done, and that's take advantage of small situations, whenever that ball is there, somehow you seen Christian Benford get a pick doing the blitz. Somehow you seen Bosa get a strip sack. You know what I mean? You've seen plays be made by our DBs to where that offense can't do what they do on a normal basis. You know, it's going to be proven on Sunday, and people will be shocked, but Bills Mafia won't be.
Let me ask you guys this. Who's a better rusher, Josh Allen's or Patrick Mahomes?
It's Allen.
By far, right?
Allen.
If he's healthy.
If he's healthy. The Jaguars defense gave up 60 yards rushing to Mahomes.
Yeah.
You don't think Josh Allen's going to go nuts and lead the way? If they gave up 60 yards to Mahomes, that dude scrambles for his life half the time.
You know what?
And now,
exactly.
Set runs. If he goes, he goes.
What else I liked was I'm sure you guys saw it by now. Like Joe Brady with the week off last week because it was a bye week for Josh Allen. He made himself scout, and Allen was talking about the mistakes he was making, leaving some easy throws on the field, and more than anything, trying sometimes to extend a play too far and get knocked out of field goal range and stuff. If he can walk that line, which we've seen him do many times, where he could still throw the cape on, but he knows when to live to see another play, that's when he's at his scariest. But I did want to ask you guys this, because we've name-checked a lot of Jaguars, like Lawrence, all their receivers, Cam Little. We haven't name-checked their best player yet in Josh Hines Allen, who is 4th in the NFL in QB pressure and who seemingly plays his best against Josh Allen. So Mookie, I'll ask you first. Like, what do the Bills have to do to not allow? Because when they lost 9-6, it was Josh Hines Allen that disrupted that game. What do they have to do to keep him in check this weekend?
We're a whole totally different line set up now. The Bills have one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. Hey, I mean, same recipe when Myles Garrett needed a sack and everybody thought that he was going to get that sack on Josh Allen. That didn't happen. So, I mean, you know, they can do the same thing, you know, in that regard. A high-profile edge rusher such as, Josh Allen Hines, he can get that same treatment that the Bills performed against Cleveland, you know, and James Cook ran the ball real well that game. So, I mean, my thing is this. I'm just tired of the disrespect, but it's to the Bills' fault too. You know what I mean? Because they don't really, you know, it's a difference to ball out, but it's a difference when you dog out, and that's the difference. We don't have nobody on that defense that's really dogging out. Bruce Smith, he dogged out. He struck fear when everybody knew on third down they looking for them. We don't have nobody on our defense that strikes fear, you know, in these defenses, and that's why we just get this disrespect because we don't have that. Like, we got Bosa. Nobody's talking about. He's not striking fear. Greg Trousseau, he's not striking fear in anybody. You know what I mean? So it's just that I'm just over, like you said, the names, dropping names, the big names, right? And then when they play the Bills, nothing happens, you know? So what happens? But we still don't get credit. We still don't get recognition for, you know, Pro Bowl consideration or All-Pro consideration, you know what I mean, in that regard. So they've been down this road against a high-profile pass rusher, and they'll have a plan for Joshua Hines.
I want to get Stevie and Drew's thoughts on this too, but Mookie, on that point, I like it this way, right? Like, I'm kind of over being the favorite, the Super Bowl or bust and all. Like, no, keep doubting the Bills, right? Like it hasn't worked as a high seed at home. Right. Maybe it's just me, and I could see the movie now, but it feels very Buffalo Bills that their path to winning it all would be a different one that isn't a dominant team that has the top seed and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice for a change to be counted. Like, I agree. I think there's a lot of the Jags are a super popular pick right now, and people are disrespecting the Bills, I think, a little bit too much, but I kind of like it this way for a change.
I do. And before Steve and Drew chime in on it, you know, everybody's riding the Jacksonville wave, right? Because they got on an 8-game winning streak, and rightfully so. The Bills haven't, you know, looked good in 8 games, if you could speak on that. But the Bills are always, to me, they always did a good job of being the hunters instead of the hunted. I don't think they know how to play, being the hunted. You know what I mean? It's a different type of approach that you got to carry yourself with, to have that mentality, match that intensity, if you will. They play a lot better when, they got to go out and hunt and earn their respect rather than, hey, we the big dogs and we're going to get every team's best shot each week. And, I think they do a much better job of being a hunter instead of the hunted.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Like they've controlled games very well. They've came out and put their playbook, which is a running back, tight end type of playing offense to work. And then they've also tried different things where they tried to go outside and sit back in the pocket. So I think that shows a team that's figuring out what they can do. And obviously through that, it wasn't perfect. So you've seen the ups and downs, but they know exactly who they are. It's not a team that's trying to figure out who they are. So I feel good with the Bills and where they are right now. But
it's simple, fellas. It's simple. We have Josh Allen on our side, not Hines Allen. We made that dude change his name because he didn't want to be compared to this guy. But mind you, Josh Allen is the only quarterback in NFL history to have multiple games of 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in the same game, fellas. If back against the wall, Superman puts on his cape and we ball out. We've seen it time and time again. We're not scared of, we weren't scared of Myles Garrett. We handled him. They didn't even say his name most of the game, except, is he going to do it? They didn't say his name. We shut them down. Like Mookie was saying, we just game plan and go. It's our defense that's been notoriously giving up players to big games, and that's where we're getting discredited. So, but that's not as late.
Drew, on that point, I hate this narrative that's going around right now. Like all the other elite quarterbacks are out, so Allen, because there's a lot of good teams. The Jags are a great team. The Broncos are a great team. There's a lot of great defenses, but if Josh is able to pull that cape out, like if it's one of those games where he's just like in refusal to lose mode, the only teams, like realistically, since 2020, he had one playoff dud against the Bengals. Every other playoff loss has been Patrick Mahomes is able to match that and have his own cape on. And we have, look, no disrespect to Trevor Lawrence. He is playing phenomenal right now. I think he's playing the best
what he's done
of his career. We have never seen him have to put on a cape like that in the playoffs of all places too.
Yeah. And none of our defense has been what they're rated right now in the league. So I'm go bet on the Buffalo Bills. We got the playmakers in the back to match up with any offensive receiving room or tight end room. Considering the way that Trey and Tyron can match up on tight ends. As you've seen, Trey been guarding like the big tight ends past weeks. So, that's versatility, and when all you need is a little bit of pass rush. And I think Deion Walker is turning into that guy that Mookie is calling out, the one who's going to strike fear, the guy who Ed Oliver was turning into. When Ed Oliver got on the field, he was about to go rip some jerseys apart and try to get to the quarterback. You see Deion Walker being that, but we're not going to elevate him to that right now. We still need another season or two, just like we need maybe another season from the Broncos. Let's see what y'all do for the rest of this playoffs. Then we may crown y'all next year as a threat. But right now, you and the Jaguars, y'all not threats. Y'all still proving yourselves, but y'all been doing well at proving yourself.
This is the week to prove. If you're the Jags, this is your opportunity.
This is the week. Indeed. This is the week.
But speaking of the Jags, in the comments right now, I do want to give a shout out. We got Duval TV out here. He says respect. He thinks it is a shame that the Bills and Jags are playing each other because neither team deserves to be bounced in the first round. This is more like an AFC championship game. One thing I have been on record as saying this week, fellas, is I think whoever wins this game ultimately wins the AFC.
You know what? Hey, and I'm with you, Duval TV. And I felt like when you guys asked this question in the chat, I was thinking like, yeah, we probably want to get the easiest route, but at the same time, you kind of want to get the toughest route, because if you get them out first, they don't build up momentum for later on. So, I mean, it's only right that these two teams play. That's why it's probably the most interesting game of the wild card weekend to me.
I do think it is the closest, the game that has the most people going back and forth on this weekend, I think, is this one.
This is the 8-9 matchups in March Madness. This is the flip-flop. It could go either way, coin flip, whatever you want to say. You know, the teams are so close to each other in the styles of play and coaching and all this different stuff. Like, it's the 8-9 matchup. It's what everyone pays to see, because they could go to the Final Four or they could get bounced in the first round, and it could ruin your bracket. So, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time right now to make our official picks, right? Because we're not going to be doing another show until after the game. So we'll start with you, Stevie. And I will say, your Why So Serious was about special teams, but you had a lot more confidence before the show about what the Why So Serious was going to be.
Yeah. That I was going to say a lot more, but you know, I don't want to be too disrespectful to the Jaguars. I'm just calling it like it is. I feel like if this is their year, they're going to have to prove it, you know, and I'm not walking into the game timid and giving all respect to the defense first, especially when you got a guy who held out and then proved himself by leading the league in rushing, considering you have another guy in Ray Davis in the same room that's leading the league in kickoff returns. So, you know, with that being said, it's like I'm going to say 31-17 Buffalo Bills.
All right, that's Stevie's pick. Mookie, who do you got?
I'm gonna just chime in again. Like, everybody want to talk about Joshua Allen Hines. He only got 8 sacks on the season. You know what I mean? Like, we had to like he's like one of the top rushers this season. Oh yeah, he was a dog last year, but only 8 games, only 8 sacks, only 1 sack in the past 4 games. You know what I mean? I don't want to wake a beast, but I mean the numbers don't lie neither. So so we got to stop creating those type of narratives, you know, that really don't make any sense at this point. You know, the numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the same truth all the time. I'm definitely going to go with this Bills team. They're the most seasoned team in the playoffs in the AFC, and I know everybody talk about the Burrow, the Mahomes, the Jackson factor. That really doesn't have anything to do with how Josh Allen needs to play. All right, he's going to play regardless if they're out there or not. The crazy caveat is Josh Allen has never won a playoff game on the road.
That's wild.
That's wild stat.
His first playoff game in all of Kansas City. Then that's who he's played on the road.
Right. Exactly.
And he was leading them. You know what I mean? It's just that at the end of the game, it was either the defense playing soft.
I mean, he walked off of Kansas City's field with 13 seconds left in a lead.
Confident.
Like, that's not his fault.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go out here and say that hopefully we don't see too many bubble screens. We didn't see it against Trubisky. And if we're not seeing that against Trubisky, and Trubisky was, 22 for 29, 260 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, throwing the ball down the field. I don't care if it is the Jets. I don't care if it is the Jets. But
Mookie, while you're on that,
have that mentality of throwing the ball downfield with play action, giving Josh Allen a chance, keeping the ball in his hands when, you know, if a receiver is open,
let him cook.
I see Josh Allen, the Bills will definitely have a real good chance on winning. So I'm going to say 31 as well. So I'm going to say Bills 31. It's going to be a little bit more closer than what Stevie's putting out there, but Bills 31, Jacksonville 23.
Okay.
Mookie, while you're on that topic, Drew brought that up before the show about how there was a lot more play action last week against the Jets and a lot more vertical downfield throwing. Was that you're around the team more than any of us? Do you think that is something that they were kind of wanting to get ready for the playoffs, or what was that? Like, are we going to see more of that now with Josh Allen? That's the real question.
I hope so. I was saying that. I was like, well, damn, maybe they're prepping to see what it's going to actually look like, you know, next week, just by, you know, throwing a few sets down the field, see what it looked like. But again, you know, no Cooks was out there. I do like, you know, how everybody was getting opportunity to make some plays down the field. And if Trubisky is making completions. I mean, this is the NFL. You got guys that get played that plays on a high level, even if they is on a crappy team. You know, if Bills can emulate that style of play last week against Jacksonville, they will beat Jacksonville. You know, it's just that simple. If you throw the ball down the field, you run the ball effectively, again, keeping them off balance with balance and not being predictable and conservative. You know, the X factor on how this offense is going to turn out is going to be on Joe Brady's shoulders.
So that's 2 picks for the Bills. Drew?
Well, I'm not surrounded by Bills gear to pick Jacksonville. No, I respect what the team has done this year. I respect what Liam Cohen's done first year there. That's a big, thing. But I think their ride comes to an end on Sunday. I think it's going to be 34-28. I think it's a pretty close game, but I think we handle business and get it done.
I'm going to make it 4 for 4. I don't think anyone listening to this is shocked. I think it is going to be – I was thinking something like 30-21, something in that range. I think it'll come down to a situation where, like, the Jags have the ball late with a chance to take a lead, and the Bills get a stop, and then Josh Allen gets the death shot after that, and gets the touchdown to kind of ice it. I do think this is a game that we are going to be pacing. I think this is a game where it's going to be close, and I know the Bills have done this thing where they fall behind big and then come roaring back. I do not think they should try to go that route in the playoffs. That is not a recipe for success, especially against a Jags team that is kind of built to play with a lead.
Question. We win the toss on Sunday, 1:00. You taking the ball or you deferring?
I'm always deferring.
Defer.
I defer. You got to be able to make those adjustments.
Get it.
Those have been pretty good adjustments, in the second half. So, again, you don't want to be a second half team. You don't want to be the cardiac Bills. But I do like the grittiness in this team, and we'll see how much grit this team will bring into the playoffs. But definitely defer.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, if we go be doing these selections, just know I'm gonna select the Bills all the way until they run into the Eagles, and then that's when I'm gonna need the Bills to surprise me or prove me wrong. You know what I mean? So
Eagles might not make it. Eagles might not make it.
And we'll see. That Niners, if they utilize CMC and Purdy don't try to go crazy and be a manager, they can do it. But they gonna have to prove me wrong. Niners gonna have to prove me wrong right now.
My Super Bowl pick coming into the playoffs is the popular one. It's Rams Bills, and I think that would be a really fun one. I don't want to see Seattle. Obviously we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but that was a matchup I was like, ugh. I also don't want to see Houston again. Like I hope they get taken out.
I feel like the Rams defense right now, is questionable. They about to get checked. They about to get checked by Carolina. Shout out JK.
So who we
got? Duval TV. He said if you think playing the Texans was hard, wait until you play Jacksonville. With all due respect to the Jags, your offense is way better than Houston. I think Houston is the best defense in football.
So Houston
that was
got
a 1-point game.
Houston got Pittsburgh. And shout out Hefe Boss Up. He tunes in every week, and he said the Texans are nice. However, when they play in the cold weather, they're a totally different team. So the Texans will be going to Pittsburgh when it's freezing. So that kind of woke my game up. And after seeing what Aaron Rodgers was able to do with that crowd behind him, with the culture, you know what I mean, is up. I might change my pick out there. I might change my pick. Shout out to Hefe Boss Up.
Will it be too cold for the Chargers to go to New England and win?
I worry about their O-line more than the weather.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about the offensive coordinator. Is he going to make the game harder than what it is, or is he going to feed Keenan Allen? Have Justin Herbert go out there and understand you're not trying to lose to Drake May. You've been here more than him. You guys have beaten the Patriots before. Utilize Keenan because this is the time for him to give everything that he can. He just got paid. Yeah, he hit his incentives at the end of the year, so he should be, geeked up. Now you utilize Herbert to get the ball out to his playmakers and not try to run around forever because that's not going to work against the Patriots.
You want a crazy Steelers stat? Because they're the Monday night game in Pittsburgh. They have not lost a Monday night home game since I believe it's 1991 or 1992.
Wow.
What?
You give them an extra day, you let that crowd get roaring, and they just don't lose apparently.
The Yinzers are out.
You see what they did against the Ravens.
That's one stat I'm not going against. So it's looking like Pittsburgh and the Patriots, the Bills will be heading to Denver. So let me go ahead and get these flights booked.
The coaching fires real quick. Ravens have a new coach. Dolphins have a new coach. What did any of these catch you guys by surprise?
Nah, nothing really catches us by surprise, considering what's been going on the past few years. It's about that time they made an adjustment, and it's either going to be a player or it's going to be coaches. And I think it was about that time. I'm surprised that Tua lasted longer than the coach. I thought he would have been out.
Well, Tua's days is number 2 because the new guy
still numbered, huh?
There and be like, you are not my guy.
True.
And that's going to happen. Like, he's going to clean house. They're going to have a rummage sale. I just wish that the Bills would have got Rasul Douglas before the season. And we definitely would love to have Rasul back. I was telling him, I was texting him, like,
why no pressure on that? Yeah. Why no pressure on that?
Last question before we go. If we are wrong, right? Let's say our game predictions are wrong. Is Sean McDermott safe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still rocking with it.
The community, I'm speaking for the community now, not me, okay? Based on what I've seen, no. Me, he's passed too many legends. He's done too many things. He's won too many games. He's climbed the ladder too high right now for this to be his downfall. But I will tell you, and Mookie, I know you know this as well, the fan base, if we don't get results and we don't get them pretty soon, if not this year, then he's on the hot seat for sure.
I've long been on the, you should only get so many bites of the apple with an elite quarterback. So I would be okay with a change. And I know the betting odds are pretty high if they lose this week that he will be let go. And I think McDermott said it a lot with a lot of his comments this week. I blame Brandon Beane for the deficiencies of this team. And I think McDermott bringing up Jacoby Myers every opportunity he has had this week.
How can you say it though? How can we blame Breen? How? He's not calling the plays. He's not designing the scheme. Like, how can you blame the general manager?
I think this is a very flawed roster. I think their wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired. I think he didn't do enough in season to make this team better. I think he did a disservice with the Darius Slay thing, making them cut Ingram. That led to Maxwell Harrison I think it's a perfect storm of we don't like the play caller.
What about the offensive coordinator?
He don't make that decision on his own.
He goes
to McDermott and say, "Hey, what do you think about bringing in Slay?" I'm quite sure he has that question to Coach McDermott before he pulls the trigger.
McDermott did throw a little shot this week about that. He was like, "Well, up until 6 weeks ago, we had 4 corners."
You had Dane Jackson on the practice squad. You should have elevated him last week, and now we're down a corner because you got Mad Max playing meaningful football up 28 in the fourth quarter against the Jets, and now he can't be available for you next week. So that's not Bean's fault. That's not Bean's fault right there, bro. So and then we keep talking about not pulling the trigger on a wide receiver. We don't have no money. All right. So at the end of the day, if the Bills would have brought in Jerry Rice,
who's in charge of the money,
still would have got 1 catch, 2 targets a game. All right,
exactly.
Let me be clear on that. If the Bills brought Jerry Rice in this scheme, Jerry Rice would have had 2 catches, 1 target. How's that for a fantasy?
And spazzing in the media. He would have been spazzing.
If we brought in Jerry Rice and they gave him 2 targets, the Bills Mafia community would pull him out of the stadium like goalposts and throw him over Niagara Falls.
Well, that ain't his fault neither.
My rebuttal to that, though, is Brandon Beane is the one in charge of the money, right? Like, he balances the dollars and cents. He's the one who paid.
No, it's
so you keep the coordinators. You keeping the coordinators and firing the manager?
I think I'm a believer that if you tear it down fully. Like I'm not. I look. I
everybody.
would love Mike McDaniel as an OC. But I just there's a lot of bad contracts on the books. I don't know.
A lot of
I've
bad.
had
A ton.
Lot of bad.
How quick
Man.
does Brady get one of those open head coaching spots?
I don't know
That's
if
been a
he's going to be an
conversation
NFL
all
coach
season.
Or college.
Either.
He
Be gone.
His offense
arena
league
league.
was
Give
high
that man
school.
a job, Stevie.
is too controlled. You're not gonna get no offensive playmakers unless they open up that playbook. And by opening up the playbook, that means you got to tell Josh he can do things on his own, because the playbook is actually really good and creative. I'm not knocking the playbook, but if people want those big time receivers, outside guys, it ain't gonna happen through plays being drawn up. It's gonna happen through your quarterback just throwing it to that guy, on simple stuff, and this isn't the offense for that. So it's gonna be more AJ Browns in the system, or keep getting system guys, which I feel like Brandon Beane has been doing, bringing in these type of receivers. None of them has went to the media and talked bad about the team. They kept it cordial, even though they ain't got much play. Elijah Moore could have been talking more than what he did, but they chose good guys that kept it cool, understood that, okay, this ain't the offense for one guy to come in and just take over. You got to be a system guy. And right now, Keon is a mix. So it's going to take Josh to take Keon under his wing for him to have those explosive games. It's not going to take Brady in the system to make Keon have those games. It's too robotic.
Coordinator, Stevie. It's his job to coordinate the offense. That's his hold on. That you ain't paying Josh to do that. You paying the offensive coordinator to coordinate the offense, to scheme your receivers over. And that's the biggest issue. He can't do it. If you go back to his days in Carolina, he can't do it. And the most baffling thing about it is you had Jay Jettas and Jamar Chase. How you can't emulate that in this level right here is diabolical to me. It's very diabolical.
It is very diabolical, and they can actually do it. I've seen practice clips. I've seen them do it and utilize their guys on the outside. But it's like when you also have a Josh Allen and a James Cook, you can get comfortable with just scheming up for them guys because it works 13 out of 18 weeks. In the 2 weeks we try to go off script, it's kind of looking like we can't move the ball. So it's like, you got to be more. Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to be more.
Teams get book on that. What you do when teams get book on that? You gonna keep doing the same
That's when they relying on Josh to be Josh as opposed to building up your guys. I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
Just like the Chiefs did with Elam last year. As soon as boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
It wasn't
as soon as Benford went down, it wasn't a punishment that Stephon Diggs only got 28 catches in 6 games. It was just a scheme. You know what I mean? It's not scheme for a prima donna number 1 wide receiver. Exactly. And again, I'm saying we created this monster. We created this monster in Josh Allen on being this big, strong arm quarterback, vertical offense. He had the best short route runner in Beasley. He had one of the best intermediates in John Brown. He had one of the best in the game in Stephon Diggs. And then now we asking this guy to be captain check down right now. That's what you're asking Josh Allen. And that's why he's sitting up there saying, what are we doing?
If there's any time for it to change, I know we're talking about playoffs right now, but this you talk about Justin Jefferson. He seems pretty disgruntled right now. AJ Brown has been disgruntled all year long. DJ Moore's kind of become an odd man out in Chicago. There are proven, talented, star wide receivers and hey, we traded the pick for Justin Jefferson to Minnesota, so bring him home But before we go, I do want to ask one last thing. Duval TV says you guys are giving up the most rushing yards. I know, Mookie, we talked about how that changes. He says, who gets the blame for that? I think it falls a little bit on McDermott, a little bit on Bean, and a little bit on Babbage.
For the rushing game, that's on the players. Like you gotta own your gaps and shoot downhill. And
that too.
Yeah, I would say, and then it goes to Babbage, because if you call in a soft defense, then it's on you, because you're training those guys to not be in attack mode when they need to be. Like that's why I said Dorian Williams is gonna be an X factor. You called out Shaq Buckets. those linebackers go be X factors because ETN runs the ball hard and he can take momentum if he get open. However, it's not like James Cook where you get it to him downhill and he's going for 100 every 7, 8, 9 games in a row. You know, we don't really have that threat. So if you hit him a few times, throw Trevor Lawrence off his spot, you know, you at a disadvantage because that means their team is not as versatile as the Buffalo Bills, who can go to either James Cook or they'll go to Josh Allen, or they'll go to a tie out the backfield, or they'll go to our tight ends, Kincaid or Knox, underneath or intermediate, or Khalil, you know, plus we have a Liam Cohen type with Joe Brady because they both dynamic play callers. So yeah, it's just a lot, you know. I'm just trying to call it like kind of how I see it, and that's how I see it.
And the players know that too, because the players were calling themselves out and they were talking to each other early on. They're like, we got to get this together. We've got to be better. And they have. I mean, for the most part, they have. Mookie, you said it. They shut down Saquon early. And like, the players know. They know what they have to do, you know, to get the job done on the defense. And, I mean, sometimes elusivity is elusivity, so...
Well, the Bills have been on the defensive side again. This is where I say, you know, this is the evolution of McDermott a little bit. To me, this is one of his better coaching performances because the way that he's been able to help Bobby Babich make halftime adjustments. Whenever you can stop the Super Bowl defending champions to not a damn catch in the second half. That's saying something to me. And they got two explosive wide receivers out there. We're one of the most explosive backs in the NFL. They did not score a point the entire second half, and they did not complete a pass. They should have won the game. But just to do that alone, and that's just let you know, Coach McDermott and Coach Babbitt has been doing more with less on the defensive side. It ain't the defense. I kept saying it last week. I kept saying it against Philadelphia. How many stops were they able to get against the world champion and the offense couldn't do anything? Yep. So it's not the defense. And if Michael Hoyt was out there, if Ed Oliver was out there, the Bills' run defense would be totally better. You know what I mean? So he's been doing more with less offensively. I mean, defensively. It's just the offense just have to join the party.
Cool. I mean, I'm good. I think we broke down this game from every angle and started to look ahead. Drew, Mookie, Stevie, any final parting words for the people before we say goodbye?
Nah, man. I'll see y'all in Las Vegas. Shout out to Cigar Mafia. Put on the watch party with Naked City. Yeah, there it is. www.cigarmafia. Go ahead and log in. More than cigars, surprisingly. And shout out to our guys. They'll be in Jacksonville. So if you see Kevin Den out there, tell them what up, though.
Look for those Air Allen hats. They got the SJ13 gloves. They got all those great merchandise. And hopefully we're all smoking a sweet victory come Sunday afternoon, early afternoon out here on the West Coast. But that'll do it for us today with the Bills Banter community. We will be back on Monday, win or lose, breaking down the game. And for however long this playoff run goes, we will be doing twice a week, every Monday and Thursday. Appreciate you all rocking with us. Catch us again on Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Bills Banter on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.